What is up, down, and sideways, all you beautiful individuals? It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, fine feathered individuals, and really hope you're enjoying the Carousel Carnival ride that is the T1 roster, because it doesn't matter who they're matching up against or how their previous series went. It seems I don't know, is this purely based on scrims, who they decide they want to start over, Guma or Smash?
I'm feeling like they're pulling cards at the beginning of a match to figure out who is getting into that lineup. There seems to be almost no real rhyme or reason to the choices for T1, but they step in to the arena on the day against Dplus Kia, and it is Gumayusi in that starting position, in that starting lineup for T1 to kick things off.
And it wasn't really about Guma in the first game of this series. It was about the nasty Nefiri performance out of Owner as he continues to, in the majority of these series here in Split 2 for T1, he's putting the team in his backpack.
He's the driving force for this team right now in the way that anything is going positive for the team and how they're able to generate it. It all starts with what he's individually doing in the jungle and then spreading it around to some of his teammates. I don't think it really spread around quite as much as you'd maybe like to with getting a Nefiri off to the races quite like that as early, but more than enough for T1 to get themselves towards the finish line, taking down the Nexus in relative clean fashion in game one.
They got a lot of help from General Barrel, always only going forward, and some suspect warding expeditions that happened to him a couple of times on that Leona. But credit to Dplus, because game two, the game plan changes for T1. We see the Ornn out of Doran in game one. They say, okay, well, let's let Doran cook a little. We'll give him the Jace, and not only will we give him that, but we're actually going to give him a lot of attention. And this Jace alone had a 2k gold lead at one point in this game, but a nice little wombo combo from Dplus made sure that Jace really never got to do anything in team fights.
And when you've invested so much into that Jace and you've not got the investments or performances, frankly, out of Faker on the Yone and Guma on the Xayah, well, you're left with a lot of nothing in the tank for the team when that Jace that has been propped up enough goes down in these team fights. Good props over to Showmaker and the rest of Dplus Kia, I think, in this game too, getting the engages, getting those correct fights and target acquisition within them to make sure that it is going to be whatever is left over in the fight from T1 from the initial engage. It's going to be the leftovers. It's just the cleanup crew. It ain't anything that you got to worry about, and this was controlled by Dplus.
So a couple of haymakers back and forth to kick off this series, but let's get rid of the appetizers. Get rid of the salad, because the main course here was absolutely game 3 in this series, and we went from 0 to 100 real quick, because this was a slow, methodical, early mid-game. It was 6 kills total until like north of 20 minutes, and T1, credit where credit's due, this was vintage fashion in them getting an 8k gold lead without getting any kills.
They built it up slowly but surely, getting their advantages, winning objectives around the map and everything else, and building up that advantage. Meanwhile, Barrel is in that bottom lane. He's on that control, and certainly a strange, but you could see the payoffs later on in the match. Choice in the bottom lane of rolling Ashe and Poppy as that role of ADC and support, and how that was matching up against that Lucian Braum bottom lane and the terror that can provide in that 2v2 was a tough laning phase for them. But you get out of that laning phase, you get to some of these more mid-game fights, and it's T1 pushing a little bit too much, and it's Barrel on the command for the rest of Dplus Kia to take back and a hold in this game.
Yeah, they basically wipe away this whole 8k gold lead in one push or one fight, because there's so much standing objective control. We know how objective bounties work. I think they cut it down to like 2k after that, and then we get this series of kind of insane back and forth team fights where, yes, aiming's Ashe, you see this 6-item Lucian, and the scaling just isn't there as much as the Ashe, because aiming is absolutely taking over some of these team fights. But lo and behold, he didn't get redemption on the Jace game. He's irrelevant for 30 minutes, but it's Doran's Renekton, the Croc, who's able to find out aiming in this final team fight to secure a unbelievable roller coaster game 3 for T1.
And frankly, let's be honest, you're gonna have Gumayusi thanking my boy Doran. He better be picking up the tab on Korean barbecue for this one because he bails him out. My guy Guma makes a critical mistake in one of these final pushes for T1 where they have an opportunity to probably end the game, close things out, flashes into the Ash to try and get that kill at the Nexus. Insta-pop, insta-kill, dunzo whatsoever. Without that Lucian, big damage threat down, can't close it out. But yes, it is the later fight where Faker, is it Faker? I'm pretty sure Faker gets caught out with that Ash arrow that comes on through.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity for Dplus Kia. Everybody aiming up for it, except for Doran aiming for aiming. And he goes right in as that crocodile, and there's nothing you can do at that point.
Which, it's great to see because Doran, of course, when you're getting swapped for Zeus, has and will remain the most polarizing, heavily criticized player on this T1 roster. So great to see him come through, even if there was some suspect moments in both the Jace and the Renekton game. But man, this series started so slow, and this game 3 started so slow before it absolutely explodes at the end with some really good team fighting back and forth. Aiming did have a fantastic Ash performance, not just the team fighting, but the arrows, as you mentioned. There were multiple cross-map arrows that he got there, but really, I don't know what this means going forward for T1. It's obviously a good bounce back, and they're going to now get some momentum, but it's still, we heard Coma talking before the game that as of now, we feel like Guma is the guy to start, and you can consider him our starting player, but a lot of the wording that he uses makes you think it could change by the next series.
Any other type of situation, getting this type of win in a series, getting a clutch big play moment from a new guy in Doran for the team, building up from something like this, that's the next path. That's of course how this is going to go. This is the launching point for better and bigger and better things for the team. But with way things have been with T1, the cloud of uncertainty because of the whole handling, communication, miscommunication about the whole bottom lane situation with this team, and then you factor in the other performances that you are watching with these other members and some of the doubts that come in, it doesn't quite feel a significant launching point for T1 as much as I think it really should be, getting this type of win against a good opponent in Dplus Kia, and specifically a bounce back win that T1 has needed after some struggling performances.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Dplus has kind of turned it on at least the last couple of series where they have looked like that premier squad again. But yeah, Owner picks up player of the match for this one, or player of the series. Again, well deserved. This is the best start to a split that Owner has probably had in his career,
without question, to me. And again, this is a guy that normally you go through so many ups and downs throughout the season, and then we're talking about him at the big event, about internationally at Worlds, where he is showing up and being this type of player. T1, one of the few bright spots this year is having Owner perform at that type of level right from the get-go.
We'll see who ends up starting the next series for T1, because again, it does almost feel like they're just pulling cards or flipping coins. We've seen T1 kind of be linked to BLG this split, because these are two teams we're used to seeing at like international finals and winning their domestic region. Obviously, neither of them went to first stand. They've kind of been mired in the middle of the pack in both their regions. Not about to call they're back to either T1 or BLG, especially BLG, because their win was against a struggling NIP squad and were truthfully behind the 8-ball until the very last team fight. And there's still a lot of question marks around BLG, but one of the positives definitely from this series and early on is On. He's been maybe, I can't believe I'm about to say this, maybe their most consistent player so far. On BLG.
Which is an interesting statement to make, because number one, it definitely is true of all the things that are going on, and there's the surprise factor in that, and then there's the realization that, wait a minute, if On is the best performing, most consistent member of this team, a team that has Elk, that's got Bin, that has Knight, that's got extreme talent, that's not the case of how you build out to be an elite tier team in your region. And that's what we're seeing from BLG. They have fallen from that type of label, that type of category within the LPL. They now find themselves in that even murkier waters of the tier 2 of the LPL, lurking around a team that you can't forget about or discount or anything like that, but doesn't carry the same fear, same power that one of these elite squads that we have seen from the region, which BLG has represented as before. So does to see that. A little bit of disappointment, I think, as well, combined with the struggles of NIP created environment to not necessarily be super happy with what you're seeing from the LPL on the day. You give credit to BLG for getting this one, and maybe you hope that it continues their bounce back. They're gonna need it because next week is the week for BLG in the LPL.
Yeah, again, we know the LPL scheduling is absolutely nutty, but next week they have 4 series that they're playing, including they're playing back to back, not once, but twice. Monday, Tuesday they play back to back, and then Friday, Saturday they're playing back to back. So that is, in what is already insane scheduling, absolutely nutty to make a team have to do that. And they're playing Weibo twice in the week.
That's the other factor that is going to be added into this one. Not only is it 4 games, back-to-back situations for these matchups, and you're throwing in that you're going to have 2 of them against Weibo, arguably the hottest team, one of the hottest teams in the LPL right now since they made that change at support. Very much going to be a test for BLG. Can you stand up? Can you keep pace? Can you keep climbing to that levels, to the heights that we have known you to reach before? And I think a lot of people, frankly, even myself, are hoping you can reach to make it interesting when we get towards conversations about MSI.
Yeah, and again, you're not feeling like BLG is back or world beaters after beating NIP. But I will say, if they lost this series, I think people would be sweating.
Yeah, the flip side is absolutely what you're avoiding in this one. The reverse of it, the loss in this situation, and then staring at that next week, still knowing it is your make or break week, win or lose this match against NIP, but knowing you're heading into it off that downslide would not have been the way to go about it. Happy to see BLG get this one, even if, again, not necessarily the most convincings of wins, and I think someone needs to have a talk with my guy Dwayne B about his Aurora choices. Not necessarily the strongest.
No, and we're not really seeing the spicy picks out of Dwayne B so far to make the most of this fearless draft situation. It's going to be a tough bounce back, by the way, for Dplus over the weekend. How about T1? They follow it up with a Hanwha Life matchup to close out the week.
What it is, but it feels like Dplus, out of all the teams that are in that contending tier type of status that we talk about in the LCK, gets done the worst in the scheduling of what they get or how it matches up of when they're going to get their power matches. Always feels like they're done the worst.
Careful though, because T1's got a second landmine with Bro to close out the weekend as well. So
don't
Gumayusi loses to Bro, you know Smash is coming back.
Don't even speak it into existence. I don't want Coma. I don't want none of this. As of now, Guma's the starting ADC, because we know if you lose to Bro, that is, well, as of then, you were the starting ADC. You are no longer the starting ADC in that point. I'm not bringing that into it. I think, again, it'll be smooth sailing through the weekend for T1.
At the very least for T1, all this has just made them, I mean, they're already the biggest fan base, but now people are even more paying attention because you get some drama along with what's actually going on in the Rift. So maybe it's actually genius, a PR move. No bad press, or no press is bad press, right?
Yeah, I guess you could take that angle. It's certainly one that I'll say from the T1 fan myself. It's made all these matches all that more intense to check in on them, because you're not counting any of them. Okay, I can just keep this in the background. The boys will do their thing, and hey, we're up, we're winning. It's all good. You got to be locked in, and you got to know it's a pressure situation still for these guys.
The biggest concern is that all this drama is affecting the players. Hopefully, not just Smash and Guma, but the entire team. Hopefully, it's not too big an issue as we see going forward for T1. But that is all the time we got today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute gorgeous individuals. Thank you so much for supporting us as always, and you best believe we will catch you on that flippity flip.